My name is Rebecca Mitchell. I'm 42 years old, and I'm a registered nurse living in Charleston, South Carolina. For 17 years, I was married to a man I thought I knew everything about, my high school sweetheart, the father of my only child, my best friend. But what I discovered in the summer of 2024 shattered every belief I had about my family, my marriage, and the man sleeping beside me every night. Every night, after he thought I was asleep, my husband Michael would quietly slip out of our bed and sneak into our 5-year-old daughter Emma's room. At first, I thought I was imagining things. Then I thought maybe he was just checking on her, being an overprotective father. But the night I set up that hidden camera, what I saw on that screen destroyed me in ways I never thought possible. The man I trusted with our daughter's life was doing things no father should ever do. If you're just starting to watch this now, I need you to prepare yourself, because what I'm about to share is every mother's worst nightmare come true. If this story is touching your heart, or if you've ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong in your own home, please hit that like button. It helps other parents who might be going through the same thing find this story. Subscribe to the Nurse Mom's Truth channel so you never miss these important life stories that could save a child. And please, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Knowing that mothers and fathers from around the world are listening gives me the strength to share this painful truth. It really does mean everything to this broken-hearted mama. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when I still believed in the fairy tale. Michael and I met when we were just 16 years old, both juniors at the same high school in Charleston. He was on the football team, I was in the science club, and somehow our worlds collided at a homecoming dance. We fell in love the way teenagers do, completely, recklessly, with our whole hearts. Everyone said we were too young, that it wouldn't last, but we proved them all wrong. We got married right after college, and 3 years later, Emma was born. God, I remember holding her in that hospital room, this perfect little miracle with her father's dark hair and my green eyes. Michael cried when they placed her in his arms. He looked at me and said, "I promise I'll protect her forever. I promise I'll never let anything hurt our little girl." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband, my partner, the man I'd chosen to build a life with. For years, everything seemed perfect. We were that family everyone admired. Michael worked as an accountant for a respected firm downtown. I worked the day shift at Charleston Memorial Hospital, and we arranged our schedules so one of us was always home with Emma. Michael was the kind of father who never missed a soccer game, who helped with homework every single night, who made pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse on Saturday mornings. He started a tradition when Emma was just 5 years old: father-daughter breakfast dates once a month at this little diner on King Street, just the two of them. Everyone would say, "Oh, Michael is such a devoted father. Emma is so lucky." And I believed it too. I was proud of how involved he was, how much time he spent with our daughter. I thought I'd married the perfect man, given my child the perfect father. Emma grew up happy and bright. She was the kind of kid who made friends easily, who brought home straight A's, who played center midfielder on her club soccer team. When she started high school last year as a freshman at Charleston Academy, I felt that bittersweet pride every mother feels. My baby was growing up. She was becoming this beautiful, intelligent young woman, and I couldn't have been more proud. But then, things started to change. It was subtle at first, so subtle I didn't even notice it happening. Emma stopped sitting with us for family dinners. She'd grab a plate and take it to her room, claiming she had too much homework. When I'd insist she eat with us, she'd sit there silently, pushing food around her plate, barely eating anything. Within 2 months, she'd lost almost 15 pounds. Her face became gaunt, her collarbones jutting out sharply. I asked her about it. Of course I did. "Honey, you're getting too thin. Are you eating enough at school?" She'd just shrug and say, "I'm fine, Mom. I'm just not that hungry anymore." I thought maybe it was the stress of high school, or maybe she was becoming self-conscious about her body the way teenage girls do. I never, not for 1 second, suspected the real reason my daughter was wasting away before my eyes. The father-daughter breakfast dates stopped. Michael would suggest them, and Emma would make excuses. "I have a project due." Or, "I'm meeting friends." Or, "I'm just really tired, Dad." I saw the hurt flash across Michael's face, and I felt bad for him. I thought Emma was just going through that teenage phase where kids pull away from their parents, I actually encouraged her to spend more time with her father. God, the guilt of that eats at me every single day. Emma started locking her bedroom door. All the time. Even during the day when she was just doing homework or listening to music. If I knocked, she'd yell, "Just a minute!" And I'd hear her rushing around before she'd open the door, always just barely wide enough to peek her head out. "What do you need, Mom?" she'd ask, impatient, irritated. Her grades started slipping. My daughter, who'd always been an honor roll student, started bringing home C's and D's. Her teachers called, concerned. "Emma seems distracted in class. She's not participating anymore. Is everything okay at home?" I assured them everything was fine, that she was just adjusting to the rigors of high school. Another lie, I told myself. Another sign I missed. The dark circles under her eyes got worse. Some mornings, Emma looked like she hadn't slept at all. Her eyes were hollow, with deep purple bruises underneath. "Are you sleeping okay, baby?" I'd ask, and she'd snap at me. "I'm fine, Mom!" God, why are you always asking me that? The anger in her voice was new, too. My sweet, gentle Emma had become irritable and defensive about everything. She started wearing baggy clothes, oversized hoodies, even in the South Carolina heat, sweatpants instead of the cute outfits she used to love. When I took her shopping for new school clothes, she refused to try on anything fitted. "I just like being comfortable," she'd insist, pulling a men's extra-large hoodie off the rack. I thought maybe she was being self-conscious about her changing body, going through that awkward teenage phase. But the thing that should have alarmed me most, the thing that haunts me now, was the way Emma started reacting to her father. Michael would come up behind her to give her a hug or pat her shoulder, and she'd flinch, actually physically recoil from his touch. Then she'd catch herself and force a smile, but I saw it. I saw the way her whole body went rigid when he touched her. I saw the fear flash in her eyes before she covered it up. And what did I do? Nothing. I told myself she was just being a moody teenager who didn't want affection from her parents anymore. I made excuses for every single red flag that was waving right in front of my face. About 4 months ago, I switched to more day shifts at the hospital. We'd been short-staffed and they needed nurses on the day rotation, but truthfully, I wanted to be home more. Something felt off with Emma, and I thought maybe if I was around more in the evenings, I could figure out what was bothering her. If I could just be more present, more available, she'd open up to me. That's when I started noticing Michael's nighttime routine. We'd go to bed around 10:30 like we always did. We'd watch a little TV, talk about our days, and then turn off the lights. I'd usually fall asleep pretty quickly. The exhaustion from 12-hour nursing shifts would knock me right out. But one night, about 3 weeks into my new schedule, I woke up around midnight to use the bathroom. Michael wasn't in bed. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he still wasn't there. I walked out into the hallway, and that's when I saw light coming from under Emma's bedroom door. I stood there in the dark hallway, confused. It was past midnight. What was Michael doing in our daughter's room? I walked closer, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor, and I heard voices. Quiet voices. Michael's deeper tone and Emma's lighter one, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I was about to knock when Michael suddenly opened the door. He jumped when he saw me standing there. "Jesus, Becca, you scared me," he said, his hand over his heart. "What are you doing in Emma's room at this hour?" I asked, trying to keep my voice down. "She texted me that she couldn't sleep," he explained, so smoothly, so calmly. "She's been having anxiety about this big history test tomorrow." I was just talking her through some relaxation techniques, helping her calm down so she could rest. He put his arm around my shoulders and guided me back toward our bedroom. "You know how stressed she gets about school." It made sense. Emma had always been a perfectionist about her grades, and Michael had always been so good at helping her with stress management. So I went back to bed, pushing down that weird feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. But after that night, I couldn't stop noticing it. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. I started pretending to be asleep, lying perfectly still, and I'd wait. Almost every night, like clockwork, around 11 or 11:30, Michael would carefully slide out of bed. He'd pause, checking to make sure I was still sleeping, and then he'd quietly leave the room. I'd wait a few minutes, my heart pounding, and then I'd sneak out to the hallway. Every single time, there was light under Emma's door. Every single time, I could hear the low murmur of voices. Once, I pressed my ear against the door, and I heard Emma. She was crying. Soft, muffled crying, like she was trying to be quiet. My hand was on the doorknob. I was going to open it, to burst in and demand to know what was happening. But then I heard Michael's voice, soothing and gentle. "Shh. It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here. Everything's going to be okay." And I stopped. Because that's what fathers do, right? They comfort their crying daughters. They help them through teenage angst and anxiety. I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Something was wrong. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was very, very wrong. But what was I accusing my husband of? Being too caring? Spending too much time with our daughter? What kind of wife suspects her husband of something sinister just for being a good father? The next morning at breakfast, I watched them. Emma wouldn't look at Michael. She stared down at her cereal, her shoulders hunched, her whole body language screaming discomfort. Michael, on the other hand, was cheerful and normal, asking her about her history test, reminding her that he believed in her. Emma just nodded, gave one-word answers, and excused herself as quickly as possible. After she left for school, I confronted Michael. "Is everything okay with Emma?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "She seems really withdrawn lately." Michael sighed and set down his coffee mug. "I've noticed it too," he said, concern etched on his face. "I think she's going through something. Maybe trouble with friends, or maybe she has a crush on someone and doesn't want to tell us. You know how teenage girls are. Everything feels like the end of the world." "Maybe we should take her to see someone," I suggested. "A therapist, someone who specializes in teenagers." "Let's give it a little more time," Michael said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I think she just needs patience and support from us right now. If it gets worse, we'll absolutely get her professional help. But let's not make her feel like there's something wrong with her, you know?" It sounded so reasonable, so rational. And Michael was always the more patient parent, the one who said I worried too much, who told me not to catastrophize. So I agreed. I gave it more time. But I couldn't shake the feeling. As a nurse, I'm trained to trust my clinical instincts. When something feels off with a patient, even if I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, I dig deeper. I investigate. And every instinct I had was telling me that something was very wrong in my own home. I started paying closer attention to Emma. I'd come home from work and go straight to her room, just to check on her. She'd be lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling, or sitting at her desk pretending to do homework but just staring blankly at her textbook. "Hey, honey," I'd say softly. "How was school?" "Fine," she'd answer without looking at me. "Do you want to talk about anything? Anything at all?" "No, Mom, I'm fine. Can you please just leave me alone?" The anger in her voice felt like a slap every time. My daughter, who used to tell me everything, who used to curl up next to me on the couch and share every detail of her day, now couldn't even stand to be in the same room with me. One afternoon, about a month ago, I was doing laundry. Emma was at soccer practice, and I was gathering up clothes from her hamper. That's when I saw it, a journal, fallen behind her nightstand. It must have slipped down there and gotten lodged between the wall and the furniture. I knew I shouldn't read it. I knew it was a violation of her privacy. But that voice in my head, that mother's intuition that wouldn't shut up, made me pick it up. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The entries were sporadic, not dated, just random thoughts and feelings scrawled across the pages in Emma's handwriting. Most of it was typical teenage stuff. Complaints about homework, excitement about making the varsity soccer team, frustrations with friends. But then I found entries that made my blood run cold. "I hate when he comes in at night. I hate it so much. I just want it to stop. I tried to lock my door, but he has a key. He always has a key. There's nowhere I can hide. I feel so dirty. I feel disgusting. I want to scrape my skin off. Mom wouldn't believe me anyway. She thinks he's perfect. She'd say I was lying. She'd hate me. Maybe if I just stop eating, I'll disappear. Maybe if I get small enough, I won't exist anymore, and then it will finally stop." I couldn't breathe. I sat there on Emma's bedroom floor, clutching her journal, reading these horrific entries over and over again. What was happening to my daughter? What was Michael doing to her? The implications were so horrifying, so unthinkable, that my mind refused to fully process them. But I had to know. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it destroyed me. I put the journal back exactly where I'd found it. I finished the laundry on autopilot, my mind racing. When Emma came home from practice, I tried to talk to her. I sat on her bed and asked her, as gently as I could, "Baby, is there anything you want to tell me? Anything at all? You know you can tell me anything, right? No matter what it is, I'll believe you. I'll protect you." Emma's face went white. She looked terrified, her eyes darting to her bedroom door like she was afraid someone might be listening. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why are you asking me that?" "I just want you to know that you're safe with me," I continued, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. "If anyone is hurting you, if anyone is making you uncomfortable, even if it's someone we know and trust, you can tell me. I will believe you." "Nothing's wrong, Mom," Emma suddenly yelled, standing up from her bed. "Why are you being so weird? Just leave me alone. I'm fine. Everything is fine." She was crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. "Get out of my room, just get out." I left. What else could I do? She was clearly terrified, clearly protecting someone, but she wouldn't talk to me. And I was terrified too, terrified of what I might discover. Terrified that my worst suspicions might be true. That night at dinner, I watched Michael with new eyes. I watched the way he looked at Emma. I watched the way he'd reach over and touch her hand or her shoulder, and the way she'd subtly pull away. I watched the way he smiled at her, and something about that smile suddenly seemed all wrong. How had I never seen it before? Or had I seen it and just refused to acknowledge it? After dinner, Michael said he was going to help Emma with her math homework. They went to her room together, and I stood in the kitchen, frozen, my mind screaming at me to do something, to stop them, to burst in there and what? Accuse my husband of something I had no proof of? Something I didn't even want to believe was possible? I went to bed early that night, claiming I had a headache. I took 2 Tylenol PM and laid down, waiting. I didn't have to wait long. Around 11:15, Michael carefully got out of bed. I heard him leave the bedroom, heard the soft creak of Emma's door opening and closing. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and opened a notes app. I started documenting everything. The time, the pattern, Emma's behavioral changes, the journal entries I'd read. I needed to start building a record, a timeline, evidence of something I still desperately hoped I was wrong about. The next day, I called my best friend from nursing school, Patricia. She works in pediatrics now, specializing in child abuse cases. I asked her to meet me for coffee, and when we sat down, I couldn't even look her in the eye as I told her everything. The late-night visits, Emma's changes, the journal entries, the fear I saw in my daughter's eyes. Patricia listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she reached across the table and gripped my hand so hard it hurt. "Rebecca," she said, her voice urgent and serious. "You need to install a camera in Emma's room. Right now. Today. You need concrete evidence before you go to the police, because without it, it becomes he said, she said, and these cases are incredibly difficult to prosecute." "A camera?" I repeated, feeling sick. "You want me to spy on my own daughter?" "I want you to protect your daughter," Patricia corrected firmly. "If your suspicions are right, and everything you're telling me suggests they are, then Emma is being sexually abused in her own home by her own father. You need proof, Rebecca. You need undeniable, concrete proof. Then you need to get her out of that house and to the police immediately." "But what if I'm wrong?" I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "What if I'm just being a paranoid, overprotective mother? What if I destroy my family over nothing?" Patricia squeezed my hand harder. "And what if you're right?" she asked quietly. "What if you do nothing, and this continues? What if Emma grows up and tells you years from now that she tried to signal for help, that she left clues and you didn't act? Could you live with that?" I couldn't. Of course I couldn't. After meeting with Patricia, I drove to an electronics store across town, somewhere I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Inside the store, I found the security camera section and just stood there, staring at the options, feeling completely overwhelmed. A young employee approached me. "Can I help you find something, ma'am?" "I need a small camera," I heard myself say. "Something discreet. Something I can hide and access remotely from my phone." He showed me several options and recommended a tiny camera that looked like a USB charging block. "You can put this on a bookshelf or dresser, and it just looks like a phone charger. The resolution is excellent. It has night vision, and the app is really user-friendly. You can watch the live feed or review footage from anywhere. This is for home security, I said, though he hadn't asked. Just want to make sure my house is safe. He nodded and rang me up. The whole transaction felt surreal, like I was watching someone else go through these motions. I paid in cash, not wanting the purchase on our joint credit card, and left the store with the camera hidden in my purse. When I got home, Michael was at work and Emma was at school. I went straight to Emma's room and stood there, looking around at this space I'd helped her decorate when we moved to this house 7 years ago. The purple walls she'd picked out, the string lights over her bed, the bookshelf packed with novels and soccer trophies. This room should have been her sanctuary, her safe space. And someone had turned it into something else. I set up the camera on her bookshelf, positioning it behind a photo frame of Emma and her best friend. From this angle, it had a clear view of her entire room, especially her bed. I tested it on my phone, and the image was crystal clear. I could see everything. As I finished setting up the camera, a wave of guilt washed over me. What kind of mother puts a hidden camera in her teenage daughter's room? This felt like such a violation, such a betrayal of Emma's privacy. What if she found out? What if I was wrong about everything, and I'd done this horrible thing for nothing? But then I remembered those journal entries. I just wanted to stop. I feel so dirty. Maybe if I stop eating, I'll disappear. I remembered my daughter's hollow eyes, her shrinking body, her terror. And I knew I was doing the right thing. I had to know the truth. Emma needed me to know the truth, even if she couldn't tell me herself. That evening, everything felt normal on the surface. Michael came home from work with Chinese takeout, Emma's favorite. We ate dinner as a family, making small talk about our days. Michael was charming and funny, telling stories from his office. Emma picked at her food, barely eating, barely speaking. I felt like I was watching a play. A performance where everyone had memorized their lines but nobody believed in the script anymore. After dinner, I told them I needed to go to bed early. I have an early shift tomorrow, and I'm exhausted, I lied. I took another Tylenol PM, but this time, I only took one. I needed to appear asleep, but I needed to be awake enough to watch. I lay in bed, my phone hidden under my pillow, the camera app already open. My heart was racing so fast I thought Michael might hear it. At 10:30 he came to bed. We went through our normal routine. He brushed his teeth, changed into his pajamas, kissed me goodnight. "Sleep well, honey," he said, wrapping his arm around me. I wanted to throw up. His touch made my skin crawl. How long had he been living this double life? How long had he been this monster in disguise? I steadied my breathing, pretended to drift off to sleep. I waited. Every minute felt like an hour. I watched the time on my phone. 11, 11:15, 11:30. Then, at 11:47, I felt Michael carefully extract his arm from around me. He slowly, silently slid out of bed. I didn't move. I kept my breathing deep and even. I heard him leave the bedroom, heard his footsteps padding down the hallway. I waited 30 seconds, then pulled out my phone from under my pillow and opened the camera app with trembling hands. The image loaded. Emma's room appeared on my screen, illuminated by her bedside lamp. She was lying in bed, her back to the camera, but I could tell by her body language that she was awake. Then her door opened, and Michael entered. I watched my husband walk into our daughter's room. I watched him close the door quietly behind him. I watched him walk over to her bed and sit down on the edge. "Hey, princess," I heard him say through the phone speaker. His voice was soft, gentle, the same voice he'd used to read her bedtime stories when she was little. Emma didn't move at first. Then slowly she turned over. Even through the camera I could see the resignation on her face. The defeat. "Dad, please," she said quietly. "Not tonight. I have a test tomorrow. I need to sleep." "Shh," Michael soothed, reaching out to stroke her hair. "You know, I just need to spend time with you. You're my special girl, remember? Daddy's special girl." Emma sat up, and I could see she was wearing an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, always covered up, always hiding her body. "Can we just talk this time?" she asked, and my heart broke at the hope in her voice. "Can we please just talk?" "We'll talk," Michael promised. "We always talk." His hand moved from her hair to her shoulder, then down her arm. "But you know I need you to show Daddy how much you love him too." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I wanted to run down the hall and kill him with my bare hands, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, watching this nightmare unfold on my phone screen. "Mom's just down the hall," Emma whispered, a last desperate attempt to make him stop. "Mom's asleep," Michael replied confidently. "She took medicine. She won't wake up for hours. It's just us, sweetheart. Just our special time together." What happened next? I can't describe in detail. I won't. Not because I didn't see it, I saw everything, but because some things are too horrific, too violating, too evil to put into words. I will say this. I watched my husband, the man I'd loved for over 2 decades, the man I'd built a life with, sexually abuse our 15-year-old daughter while I lay just down the hall. I watched Emma's face. God, I can't get that image out of my head. The blankness. The dissociation. The way she stared at the wall, somewhere far away, enduring what was being done to her because she'd learned she had no choice. I watched Michael touch her, heard the things he said to her, the manipulation, the grooming. "This is normal, sweetheart. This is how fathers show their daughters they love them. Your mother wouldn't understand our special bond. This is just between us. If you ever tell anyone about our special time, they'll take you away from your mother. They'll put you in foster care with strangers. You don't want that, do you? You don't want to hurt Mom like that, do you? You're so beautiful, princess. You're becoming such a beautiful young woman. Daddy loves you so much." The gaslighting, the threats disguised as concern, the way he twisted everything, making her feel like she was the one who would be responsible for destroying the family if she told. I sat in my bed, my hand clamped over my mouth to keep from screaming, tears streaming down my face, watching my daughter be raped by her father. I forced myself to keep watching. I forced myself to record every second. Because Patricia was right, I needed proof. Without this video, without this concrete evidence, it would be his word against hers, and Emma was so broken down, so thoroughly manipulated, I wasn't sure she'd even be able to testify against him. The abuse lasted 38 minutes. 38 minutes that felt like 38 hours. Finally, Michael stood up from Emma's bed. He leaned down and kissed her forehead, like any loving father would. "Good night, princess," he said softly. "Daddy loves you so much. Remember, this is our special secret. You can never tell anyone, especially not Mom. This would break her heart." Then he left. He walked out of Emma's room, closed the door gently behind him, and came back to our bed. He slid in next to me, wrapped his arm around me like nothing had happened, and within minutes, he was asleep, actually asleep, snoring softly, peaceful, content. I lay there beside him, my whole body shaking, fighting the urge to vomit. On my phone screen, I watched Emma curl into a ball in her bed. I watched her stuff her fist into her mouth to muffle her sobs. I watched my baby girl cry silently, alone, in the dark, after her father had just raped her. I wanted to run to her. Every cell in my body screamed at me to go to her, to hold her, to tell her I knew, that I believed her, that she was safe now, but I couldn't. If Michael woke up and found me in Emma's room, if he suspected I knew anything, he might run, he might destroy evidence, he might hurt Emma even worse to ensure her silence. I had to be smart. I had to be strategic. For Emma's sake, I had to control myself. I waited until Michael's snoring deepened, until I was sure he was fully asleep, then I carefully got out of bed, went to the bathroom, and silently threw up. I vomited until there was nothing left, until my body was just dry heaving. I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was someone I didn't recognize. How had I not known? How had I lived with this monster for 17 years and never suspected? How had I shared a bed with him, raised a child with him, built a life with him, and never seen the evil hiding behind his eyes? I thought about all the times I'd encouraged Emma to spend more time with her father. All the times I'd pushed her to go on those breakfast dates with him. "Spend time with your dad, honey. He misses you."
Oh God.
How many times had I unwittingly pushed her into her abuser's arms? I went back to our bedroom, grabbed my phone, and locked myself in the bathroom. I downloaded the video from the camera app. I uploaded it to 3 different cloud storage accounts. I emailed it to myself. I sent it to Patricia with a message. "I was right. It's worse than I thought. What do I do now?" She responded within 2 minutes. Get Emma out, now, then call police. I looked at the time, 2:47 a.m. I couldn't wait until morning. I couldn't leave Emma in this house for one more second. Michael would wake up in a few hours and expect everything to be normal. He'd make breakfast, kiss us both goodbye, go to work, and Emma would have to sit there and pretend everything was fine. No, not anymore. Never again. I went to Emma's room and quietly opened the door. She was still curled up in her bed, but I could tell she wasn't sleeping. "Emma," I whispered. "Baby, it's Mom." She sat up quickly, panic on her face. "Mom? What are you doing? Dad might—" "I know," I interrupted softly, walking over to sit on her bed. "Emma, I know everything. I know what he's been doing to you." The look on her daughter's face, I'll never forget it. Terror, hope, disbelief, shame, all of it crashing together. "You know?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "You believe me?" "Oh, baby," I said, and I pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbing. "Of course I believe you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you." "I wanted to tell you," Emma cried into my shoulder. "I tried to tell you so many times, but he said you'd never believe me. He said you'd think I was lying. He said I'd destroy the family." "You're not destroying anything," I said fiercely, holding her tight. "He did this. This is all him. None of this is your fault. Do you hear me? None of this is your fault." We sat there for a few minutes, Emma crying years' worth of pain and fear into my shoulder while I held her and silently vowed to destroy the man who'd done this to her. "Emma," I finally said, pulling back to look at her face. "We need to leave, right now, tonight. Get dressed and pack a bag, just the essentials. We're going to Aunt Sarah's house, and then we're going to the police." "He'll find us," Emma said, terrified. "He'll come after us. He'll make it worse." "He won't." I promised. "I have proof, baby. I have video evidence of what he did tonight. He's never going to touch you again. I promise you, he is never going to hurt you again." Emma's eyes widened. "Video? You recorded it?" "I installed a hidden camera," I explained. "I needed proof before we could act. I needed to make sure that when we went to the police, they'd believe you. And now they will. They'll have to." 20 minutes later, we quietly left the house. I didn't pack anything for myself. I didn't want to risk making noise. We just took Emma's duffel bag with some clothes and toiletries, and we left. We got into my car and drove away from that house, from that prison where my daughter had been suffering for God knows how long. As I drove through the dark streets of Charleston toward my sister's house on the other side of town, Emma sat in the passenger seat, silent tears streaming down her face. "Mom?" she said quietly. "Yes, baby?" "When did you know? When did you figure it out?" I gripped the steering wheel tighter, feeling the weight of that question. "I suspected for a few weeks. I noticed your changes, and I noticed Dad going to your room every night. But I only knew for sure tonight. I watched what he did to you on the camera." Emma was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry you had to see that," she finally said. That nearly broke me. My daughter apologizing to me for what she'd been put through. "You have nothing to apologize for," I said firmly. "Nothing. You are the victim here. You are the brave one. Do you understand me?" "How long will I have to be brave?" she asked in a small voice. "When does it get to stop hurting?" I reached over and grabbed her hand. "I don't know, baby. But I promise you, we'll get through this together. We'll get you help. You'll heal. It's going to be a long road, but you're not walking it alone." We arrived at my sister Sarah's house just after 3:30 inches the morning. I pounded on the door until she answered, standing there in her pajamas, her hair a mess, looking confused and alarmed. "Rebecca? What the hell? It's 3 in the morning. What's—" Then she saw Emma's face, saw the bags under our eyes, saw the devastation written all over both of us. "Oh my God, come in. Come in right now." We stumbled inside, and Sarah immediately wrapped Emma in a hug. "You're safe here," she said firmly. "Whatever happened, you're safe now." She looked at me over Emma's head, and I could see the questions in her eyes, the fear. Sarah led Emma to the guest bedroom. "Sweetheart, why don't you lie down for a bit? You look exhausted." Emma nodded mutely and disappeared into the room. As soon as the door closed, Sarah grabbed my arm and pulled me into the kitchen. "What happened? What did Michael do? I told her everything. Every horrible detail. The late-night visits, the journal entries, the camera, what I'd witnessed just hours ago. Sarah's face went from concerned to horrified to absolutely enraged. When I finished, she had tears streaming down her face. "That son of a bitch!" she whispered, her voice shaking with fury. "That absolute monster! How long has he been doing this to her?" "I don't know," I said, my own tears falling again. I asked Emma in the car, but she just said a long time. She couldn't say more than that. "Sarah, what if it's been years? What if he's been doing this since she was a little girl and I never knew?" "Stop," Sarah said firmly, gripping my shoulders. "You can't do that to yourself right now. You didn't know. He hid it. These predators are experts at hiding. What matters is that you know now, and you're acting. You got Emma out. That's what matters." I nodded, trying to pull myself together. "I need to call the police. I need to do it right now, before I lose my nerve." Sarah handed me her phone. "Use mine. Keep yours off in case Michael tries to track it or something." I hadn't even thought of that, but she was right. I took her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "My name is Rebecca Mitchell," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I need to report a child sexual abuse case. My husband has been sexually abusing our 15-year-old daughter. I have video evidence. We've left the house and we're at a safe location. I need police and someone from Child Protective Services." The dispatcher's voice became immediately serious and focused. "Ma'am, are you and your daughter in immediate danger?" "No, we're safe. We're at my sister's house. My husband is still at home asleep. He doesn't know we've left yet." Okay, I'm dispatching officers to your location now. Can you give me the address?" I gave her Sarah's address. "And I need the address where your husband is currently located." I gave her our home address too. "Officers are on their way to you, and we're sending a unit to your home address as well. Ma'am, you did the right thing by calling. You and your daughter are going to be okay." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe that we'd be okay, but I couldn't imagine how anything would ever be okay again. 2 police officers arrived within 15 minutes. One was a woman in her 40s, Detective Maria Torres. The other was a younger male officer, Officer Chen. Detective Torres had kind eyes but a serious demeanor. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Detective Torres. Can we sit down and talk about what's happened?" We sat in Sarah's living room, and I told them everything again. I showed them the video on my phone. Detective Torres's jaw clenched as she watched, and Officer Chen actually had to look away for a moment. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "This is clear evidence of child sexual abuse," Detective Torres said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to send this video to me immediately. We'll need the original file from the camera as well. This is going to be crucial evidence in the prosecution." "There's more," I said. "I found my daughter's journal. She has entries about what he's been doing. I didn't bring it with me, but it's in her room, behind her nightstand." "We'll get a warrant and retrieve that as well," the detective assured me. "Now, I need to speak with Emma. I know this is traumatic, but I need to get her statement while everything is fresh." "Can I be with her?" I asked. "For part of it, yes, but at some point, I'll need to speak with her alone. It's standard procedure in these cases." She must have seen the fear on my face because she added gently, "I specialize in child abuse cases, Mrs. Mitchell. I know how to talk to victims without re-traumatizing them. I promise I'll be as gentle as possible." Emma was brought out to the living room. She looked so small, so fragile, wrapped in one of Sarah's blankets. Detective Torres introduced herself and explained what would happen. "Emma, I know this is scary and hard, but I need you to tell me, in your own words, what's been happening. Can you do that?" Emma looked at me, and I nodded encouragingly. She took a deep breath and began to talk. Her voice was quiet at first, halting, but as she spoke, it grew stronger. She told Detective Torres everything. When it started, when she was 12 years old, how it began with inappropriate touching during their father-daughter breakfast dates, how it escalated over the years, how he'd tell her it was their special secret, how he'd threaten that she'd be taken away if she ever told anyone. She described the late-night visits, how he had a key to her room so her locked door meant nothing, how he'd wait until I was asleep or away on a night shift. How he'd tell her that this was what fathers and daughters who loved each other did. How he made her feel like it was her fault, like she was somehow responsible for his actions. He said Mom would hate me if she knew, Emma said, her voice breaking. He said she'd blame me for destroying the family. He said nobody would believe me anyway because he was a respected member of the community and I was just a troubled teenager. Detective Torres's expression remained professional, but I could see the rage simmering beneath the surface. Emma, I want you to know something very important. None of this is your fault. Not one single bit of it. Your father is a predator. He's a criminal. He manipulated you and threatened you to keep you silent. That's what abusers do, but you are not responsible for his actions. Do you understand me? Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. I tried to tell Mom. I tried to leave clues. I thought maybe if I got sick enough, if I got thin enough, someone would notice something was wrong. That revelation hit me like a physical blow. The weight loss, the refusal to eat, it wasn't teenage insecurity or body image issues. It was a deliberate cry for help that I'd misread entirely. The interview went on for another hour. Detective Torres was thorough but compassionate, asking difficult questions in the gentlest way possible. When it was over, she turned to me. Mrs. Mitchell, we're going to arrest your husband this morning. Officers are already stationed outside your home to make sure he doesn't flee. We'll execute the arrest when he wakes up and leaves for work. We don't want to spook him by going in the middle of the night. What happens after that? I asked. He'll be charged with multiple counts of child sexual abuse, rape of a minor, and other related charges. Given the video evidence and Emma's testimony, I'm confident we have a strong case. We'll also be filing for an emergency protective order to keep him away from both of you. How long will he go to prison for? Emma asked quietly. Detective Torres looked at her seriously. If convicted on all charges, which I believe he will be, he's looking at a minimum of 25 years, possibly more. He'll also have to register as a sex offender for life. 25 years. It seemed both like too much and not nearly enough. No amount of prison time could undo what he'd done to Emma, could give her back the childhood he'd stolen. There's something else you should know, Detective Torres continued. This case will likely attract media attention. Child abuse cases involving seemingly normal, respected families often do. You need to be prepared for that. We'll do everything we can to protect Emma's identity, but it might get uncomfortable. I hadn't even thought about that. Of course, the media would cover this. Michael was well known in Charleston's business community. People would be shocked. Some would probably defend him, claim it was all lies. Others would say they always knew something was off about him. The gossip, the speculation, the judgment, it would be brutal. We'll handle it, I said firmly. Whatever we have to face, we'll handle it. The most important thing is keeping Emma safe and getting justice. By 6 a.m., we received word that Michael had been arrested. He'd woken up, gotten ready for work, and walked out to his car where officers were waiting. According to the report, he'd acted shocked and confused, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that his wife was mentally unstable and had made up lies about him. That made me so angry I saw red. Even now, even caught red-handed with video evidence, he was trying to manipulate the situation, trying to make me look like the crazy one. But it didn't matter. The evidence was irrefutable. Within hours, Michael was formally charged with 7 counts of child sexual abuse, 3 counts of rape of a minor, and multiple counts of child endangerment. The bail hearing was set for the following day. That first day at Sarah's house was a blur. A social worker from Child Protective Services came to check on Emma and ensure she was in a safe environment. They interviewed both of us, asked hundreds of questions, and ultimately determined that Emma could remain in my care as long as we stayed away from our home and maintained the protective order against Michael. A victim's advocate was assigned to us, a woman named Jennifer who specialized in helping survivors of sexual abuse. She brought resources, information about therapy, and guidance on what to expect from the legal process. She sat with Emma for over an hour, just talking, helping her understand that she wasn't alone, that there were thousands of survivors who'd been through similar trauma and had healed. It's going to be a long road, Jennifer told us honestly. Healing from this kind of trauma doesn't happen overnight. But Emma, you're incredibly brave. You survived. And now you're going to learn how to thrive. Emma asked the question that had been haunting her. Will I have to testify in court? Will I have to see him again? Possibly, Jennifer answered truthfully. The prosecutor will try to avoid it if possible. With the video evidence and your initial statement, they might not need you to testify. But if the case goes to trial, you might have to take the stand. If that happens, we'll prepare you thoroughly. You'll have support every step of the way." The thought of Emma having to face Michael in court, having to recount her abuse in front of strangers, made me physically ill. But we'd cross that bridge when we came to it. That evening, Emma and I lay together in the guest bed at Sarah's house. She'd barely left my side all day, terrified that if she let me out of her sight, I might disappear. "Mom?" she said quietly in the dark. "Yes, baby?" "How long did you know something was wrong? Before you put in the camera?" I thought about how to answer that honestly. "I noticed changes in you about 4 months ago. The way you were acting different, pulling away, the dark circles, the weight loss. But I didn't suspect Dad specifically until about a month ago when I noticed him going to your room at night." "Why didn't you ask me sooner?" There was no accusation in her voice, just genuine curiosity. "I did ask you, honey, multiple times, but you said you were fine, and I wanted to believe you were fine. I wanted to believe that my family was normal and healthy. I think part of me was terrified of what I might discover if I looked too closely." I paused. "I failed you, Emma. I should have known sooner. I should have protected you better." "You couldn't have known," Emma said softly. "He was really good at hiding it, and he made sure I was too scared to tell you. He spent 3 years convincing me that you'd either not believe me or that telling you would destroy you. He said learning the truth would break your heart, and you'd never recover. He was trying to isolate you," I said, anger creeping into my voice again. "That's what abusers do. They make their victims feel alone, like they can't trust anyone. But you're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again." We lay there in silence for a while, and then Emma asked the question I'd been dreading. "Mom, did you ever suspect anything before, when I was younger?" I thought back over the years, desperately searching my memories for signs I might have missed. "I don't think so," I said honestly. "I thought your relationship with Dad was sweet. I thought he was being a devoted father. Looking back now, I can see things differently. The way he insisted on always being the one to tuck you in, even when you got older. The way he'd spend so much private time with you. The father-daughter dates that I thought were precious. But at the time, I just saw a dad who loved his daughter. I never imagined." My voice broke. "He told me it started as normal affection," Emma said, her voice flat, detached. "He said it was normal for fathers to kiss their daughters, to hug them, to cuddle. And then slowly, it became more. He'd touch me in ways that felt wrong, but he'd say it was normal, that all fathers did this. By the time I realized it wasn't normal, I was already too scared and confused to tell anyone. This is what grooming looks like," I realized. "This is how predators operate. They start small, with affection that seems innocent. They slowly push boundaries, normalizing inappropriate behavior until the victim doesn't even know what's normal anymore. And they do it all while making the victim feel special, chosen, loved in a twisted way." The bail hearing the next day was brutal. Michael's lawyer argued that he was a respected businessman with no prior criminal record, that he wasn't a flight risk, and that he should be released on bail. The prosecutor countered with the video evidence, with Emma's testimony, with the severity of the charges. The judge took one look at the evidence and denied bail. Given the nature of these charges and the compelling evidence presented, I find that the defendant poses a substantial risk to the victim. Bail is denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. I felt Emma's hand squeeze mine as the judge spoke. She'd been terrified that Michael would be released, that he'd find us somehow. But now we knew he was behind bars, at least for now. News of Michael's arrest spread through Charleston like wildfire. By the third day, it was the top story on local news. Prominent local accountant arrested on child abuse charges. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends, family, reporters, all wanting to know what happened. Wanting details. Wanting statements. I turned off my phone and Emma's. We didn't need to hear any of it. We especially didn't need to hear from people who refused to believe Michael could do such things, who accused Emma of lying, who suggested I'd brainwashed our daughter to get back at my husband for some imagined slight. Yes, there were people like that. Michael's parents called Sarah's house repeatedly, demanding to speak to me, insisting their son was innocent, that Emma was a troubled teenager making up stories. Michael's brother showed up at Sarah's door, trying to convince me to drop the charges. Sarah called the police and had him removed. But there were also people who believed us, who supported us. My nursing colleagues from the hospital sent flowers and cards. Emma's best friend's parents reached out, offering any help we needed. Patricia, my friend from nursing school, came to visit and brought resources about trauma therapy for children. And there were other victims who came forward. 2 days after Michael's arrest, a woman contacted the police. She said Michael had coached her daughter's soccer team 5 years ago, and he'd made inappropriate comments to her then 10-year-old daughter. She'd pulled her kid from the team but hadn't reported it. Now she was coming forward. Then another parent called, and another. Apparently Michael had a pattern of targeting young girls. Emma wasn't his only victim, though she was the one he'd had the most access to, the one he'd abused most systematically. Each new report made me sicker. How long had my husband been a predator? Had he always been this monster, even when we first met as teenagers? Detective Torres told me they were investigating whether there might be even more victims going back years. Men like your husband don't usually just start this behavior out of nowhere, she explained. There's often a pattern that goes back to young adulthood or even adolescence. The thought that I'd loved this man, married him, built a life with him, while he was secretly a child predator, it shattered my entire sense of reality. How could I have been so blind? How could I have slept next to him, shared meals with him, laughed with him, while he was doing these horrific things? You can't blame yourself, Jennifer, our victim's advocate told me during one of our sessions. Predators are master manipulators. They're experts at appearing normal, trustworthy, even exemplary. That's how they gain access to victims. If they walked around with a sign saying, "I'm a child molester," they'd never get close to children. Emma started therapy 3 days after we left the house. Her therapist, Dr. Aisha Ramirez, specialized in childhood sexual trauma. I wasn't allowed in the sessions. Emma needed a space where she could talk freely without worrying about my reactions, but Dr. Ramirez would meet with me separately to update me on Emma's progress and give me guidance on how to support her. Emma is displaying classic symptoms of sexual abuse trauma, Dr. Ramirez explained after their first session. The dissociation, the self-blame, the eating disorder, the nightmares, these are all common responses. The good news is that she's young, and she has a supportive mother who believes her. Those two factors significantly improve her chances of healing. Will she ever be okay? I asked, desperate for reassurance. Define okay, Dr. Ramirez replied gently. Will she go back to being exactly who she was before the abuse? No. Trauma changes people, especially trauma that occurs during formative years. But can she heal? Can she learn to process what happened, develop healthy coping mechanisms, and go on to live a full, meaningful life? Absolutely. It won't be easy and it won't be quick. But yes, Emma can heal. I clung to those words. Emma can heal. That became my mantra during those dark early days. The preliminary hearing was held 3 weeks after Michael's arrest. Emma didn't have to testify. The video evidence and the statements from the other victims who'd come forward were enough for the judge to determine there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Michael's lawyer tried to get the video evidence thrown out, arguing it was obtained illegally, that I'd violated privacy laws by recording in Emma's bedroom without consent. The prosecutor countered that I was Emma's legal guardian and had the right to protect her by any means necessary, and that the evidence showed an ongoing crime being committed. The judge ruled in our favor. The video was admissible. I saw Michael at that hearing. It was the first time I'd laid eyes on him since the night I'd watched him rape our daughter. He'd lost weight in jail. He looked gaunt, tired, with dark circles under his eyes. Good. I hoped he was suffering. I hoped every second in that cell was torture. He tried to catch my eye several times during the hearing. I refused to look at him directly, but once, just for a second, our eyes met across the courtroom. And you know what I saw? Not remorse. Not shame. Anger. He was angry at me. Angry that I'd reported him, that I'd destroyed his life, that I'd exposed him. That anger told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. He only regretted getting caught. The trial was set for 3 months later. In the meantime, Emma and I tried to build some semblance of a normal life. We couldn't go back to our house. It held too many terrible memories for Emma. Sarah graciously let us stay with her, but I knew we needed our own space. I used our savings to rent a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. I took a leave of absence from the hospital. I couldn't work full shifts and be there for Emma the way she needed me to be. My supervisor was understanding. "Family comes first," she said. "Take all the time you need." Money was tight without my income, but we managed. Michael's assets were frozen pending the criminal trial, so I couldn't access our joint accounts. I had to hire a lawyer to start divorce proceedings and fight for Emma's right to remain in my custody. Michael's parents actually tried to sue for grandparents' rights, claiming I was an unfit mother who'd fabricated charges against their son. That case was dismissed almost immediately. Emma's therapy became the center of our lives. 3 times a week, I'd drive her to Dr. Ramirez's office and wait while they worked through Emma's trauma. Some days Emma would come out of those sessions crying. Other days she'd seem lighter, like some burden had been lifted. "We talked about the shame today," she told me after one particularly hard session. "Dr. Ramirez says I have to stop believing it was my fault. She says my brain keeps trying to find ways that I could have prevented it or stopped it, but that's just my brain trying to make sense of something senseless." "She's right," I said firmly. "It wasn't your fault, Emma. It was never your fault." "But I didn't fight back," Emma said, her voice small. "After the first few times I stopped fighting. I just let it happen. Doesn't that mean I'm responsible?" I pulled over the car because I needed to look at my daughter when I said this. "Emma, you were a child. You are still a child. He was an adult, your father, someone who was supposed to protect you. He had all the power, physical power, emotional power, psychological power. You survived the only way you knew how. Not fighting back doesn't mean you consented. It means you were terrified and trying to survive. There is no shame in that." These conversations happened frequently. Emma's healing wasn't linear. She'd have good days where she seemed almost like her old self, laughing at something on TV or joking with her Aunt Sarah. Then she'd have bad days where she couldn't get out of bed, where the weight of everything crushed her. The nightmares were the worst. Emma would wake up screaming, convinced Michael was in the room. I'd have to turn on all the lights, check the locks, remind her that he was in jail, that he couldn't get to her. Some nights, she'd sleep in my bed, terrified to be alone. School was another challenge. Emma had missed so much of her sophomore year that we had to withdraw her officially. We planned to re-enroll her once the trial was over and things had settled down. In the meantime, I hired a tutor to help her keep up with coursework. Emma lost all of her friends except one. Most of the kids at her school either didn't believe her story or didn't want to be associated with the drama. Only her best friend Sophia stood by her. Sophia's parents were amazing. They brought Emma over for game nights, treated her normally, never made her feel like damaged goods. As the trial date approached, the prosecutors met with us to prepare Emma for testifying. Despite the strong evidence, Michael had refused to take a plea deal. He was going to trial, which meant Emma would have to take the stand. "I need you to tell the jury exactly what happened." The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney James Chen, explained, "Your testimony, combined with the video evidence and the other victims' statements, will make this case ironclad." "What will his lawyer do?" Emma asked nervously. "He'll try to discredit you," Ada Chen said honestly. "He'll suggest you made this up for attention, or that you misinterpreted normal fatherly affection. He'll try to poke holes in your timeline, question why you didn't report it sooner. I won't lie to you, Emma, it's going to be uncomfortable. But you need to remember that the jury will be watching the video. They'll see exactly what happened. His lawyer can try all he wants to twist things, but the evidence speaks for itself." We practiced for hours. Ada Chen asked Emma every possible question, including the uncomfortable ones, the ones designed to rattle her. "Why didn't you lock your door? Why didn't you scream for your mother? Didn't you enjoy the special attention from your father?" Each question was more awful than the last, but Emma needed to be prepared. "When he asks these things," Ada Chen coached, "you stay calm. You tell the truth simply and directly. I did lock my door. But he had a key. I didn't scream because he'd threatened that I'd be taken away if I told anyone. No. I didn't enjoy being raped by my father. Don't let him fluster you." The night before the trial began, Emma couldn't sleep. She came into my room at 2 a.m. and crawled into bed next to me, just like she used to do when she was little and had bad dreams. "I'm scared, Mom," she whispered. "I know, baby, I'm scared too. What if they don't believe me? What if he gets away with it?" I held her close. "They will believe you. The evidence is overwhelming. Michael will be convicted. I promise you." What if I freeze up on the stand? What if I can't talk? Then you take your time, you breathe. You remember that I'm right there in the courtroom with you. You remember that you're telling the truth, and the truth is powerful. We lay there together in the dark, neither of us sleeping, both of us dreading what was to come. The trial lasted a week. It was covered extensively by local media. Monster father on trial for abusing daughter read the headlines. I stopped reading the news articles, stopped looking at social media. The comments were two toxic people defending Michael, people attacking Emma, people blaming me for not knowing, for not protecting my daughter. The prosecution presented their case methodically. They showed the video the jury watched in horrified silence as Michael assaulted Emma on screen. Several jurors were crying by the end. They called the other victims to testify about Michael's inappropriate behavior. They called Dr. Ramirez to explain Emma's symptoms and how they were consistent with sexual abuse trauma. And then they called Emma. Watching my daughter walk to that witness stand was one of the hardest things I've ever done. She looked so small up there, so vulnerable. Michael's lawyer objected to everything, tried every tactic to prevent Emma from testifying, but the judge overruled him. Adia Chen started gently, asking Emma to describe her relationship with her father when she was younger. Emma's voice was quiet but steady as she explained how close they'd been, how much she'd trusted him. Then Chen asked when things changed. I was 12, Emma said. We were at one of our breakfast dates, and he touched me under the table, in a way that felt wrong. When I pulled away, he said I was being silly, that fathers and daughters were allowed to be affectionate. She went through the whole timeline, explaining how the abuse escalated, how the threats began, how she became trapped in this nightmare. The jury listened with rapt attention. Several looked like they wanted to jump over the bench and attack Michael themselves. Then came the cross-examination. Michael's lawyer, a slick defense attorney named Richard Thornton, approached Emma with fake sympathy. Miss Mitchell, I know this is difficult for you. But I have to ask, isn't it true that you were angry at your father for being strict with you? No, Emma said firmly. Isn't it true that he'd grounded you several times for poor grades and you wanted to get back at him? No, my grades were fine until the abuse started affecting my ability to function. Isn't it possible that you misinterpreted normal parental concern and affection as something inappropriate? Emma looked Thornton right in the eye. I didn't misinterpret being raped. The courtroom went silent. Even Thornton seemed thrown by Emma's directness. He tried a few more angles, but Emma had been well prepared. She didn't waver. She didn't break down. She told the truth calmly and clearly. When she finally stepped down from the witness stand, she walked straight to me. I held her while she shook with silent sobs, so proud of her courage, so devastated that she'd had to show it. The defense's case was weak. They called character witnesses, Michael's coworkers, his friends, his parents, who all testified about what a great guy he was. But their testimonies rang hollow against the video evidence, and Emma's powerful testimony. Michael himself took the stand in his own defense. It was a mistake. He tried to claim that the video was taken out of context, that he was merely comforting his distressed daughter. The prosecutor tore him apart on cross-examination. Mr. Mitchell, in the video, we hear you tell your daughter this is our special secret. What did you mean by that? Michael stumbled through an explanation about how he was helping her with anxiety and didn't want to worry me. And when you told her show Daddy how much you love him, you were asking for what exactly? Michael's face reddened. He had no good answer. Mr. Mitchell, we have your daughter's journal, with entries describing years of abuse. We have testimony from other young girls describing your inappropriate behavior. We have video evidence of you sexually assaulting your daughter. What context could possibly excuse any of that? Michael couldn't answer. He sat there, his lies exposed, his true nature revealed for everyone to see. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they came back, I held Emma's hand so tightly I probably hurt her. The 4 women stood. On the charge of child sexual abuse in the 1st degree, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of rape of a minor, how do you find? Guilty. Guilty, 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 7 counts, all guilty verdicts. Emma collapsed against me, sobbing with relief. Across the courtroom, I heard Michael's mother wailing. Michael himself sat stone-faced, finally realizing that his life as he knew it was over. The sentencing hearing was held 2 weeks later. ADA Chen argued for the maximum sentence. Emma read a victim impact statement that left everyone in tears. "My father stole my childhood," she said, her voice strong despite the tears streaming down her face. "He stole my sense of safety, my ability to trust, my innocence. He made me feel dirty and ashamed for things that were never my fault. He used his position as my father, someone who was supposed to protect me, to hurt me in the worst possible way, but he didn't break me. I'm still here. I'm healing, and I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison, thinking about what he did, knowing that he'll never hurt another child again." The judge sentenced Michael to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. He would also have to register as a sex offender for life. As they led him away in handcuffs, Michael finally looked at me. And I looked back. I wanted him to see the hatred in my eyes, wanted him to know that I would never forgive him, that he had lost everything. That was 2 years ago. Today, Emma is 17 years old and a senior in high school. She's still in therapy, but the sessions are less frequent now, once a week instead of 3 times. The nightmares have decreased significantly. She still has hard days when the trauma feels overwhelming, but they're becoming less common. Emma rejoined her soccer team this year. Watching her run down that field, strong and confident, makes me cry every time. She's made new friends, kids who know her story and accept her anyway. She's even started dating a sweet boy named Marcus, who treats her with the utmost respect and patience. Her grades have improved dramatically. She's back on the honor roll and has been accepted to several colleges. She wants to major in psychology. "I want to help other survivors," she told me. "I want to use what happened to me to make a difference." That's my daughter. She took the worst thing that could happen to a child and decided to transform it into something meaningful. As for me, I went back to work at the hospital, but I couldn't stay in emergency nursing. I kept seeing potential abuse cases everywhere I looked. I transferred to the pediatric unit and became a child abuse prevention advocate. I give talks at schools and community centers about recognizing the signs of abuse, about believing children when they try to tell you something's wrong. I've shared our story publicly, hoping to help other families. Because that's the thing about child sexual abuse, it happens in families like ours. Normal families. Families where from the outside everything looks perfect. The predator could be anyone: a father, a mother, a step-parent, an uncle, a coach, a teacher, a priest. They're often people we trust implicitly, which is exactly how they gain access to victims. I've learned so much since that horrible night I installed the camera. I've learned that approximately 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before they turn 18. I've learned that 90% of child sexual abuse victims know their abuser. I've learned that 35% of child sexual abuse is committed by family members. I've learned the warning signs that I missed with Emma: sudden behavioral changes, withdrawal from activities they once enjoyed, age, inappropriate sexual knowledge, fear of specific people or places, physical signs like unexplained injuries, sleep disturbances and nightmares, regressive behavior, and changes in eating habits. I've learned that children rarely lie about abuse. In fact, they're more likely to minimize or hide it because of shame, fear, or manipulation by the abuser. When a child tells you something, you believe them. You act immediately. You protect them first and sort out the details later. To any parents watching this, I need you to understand something crucial. Trust your instincts. If something feels off with your child, if their behavior changes drastically, if they seem afraid of someone they should trust, investigate. Don't make excuses. Don't rationalize. Don't tell yourself that you're overreacting. I almost lost my daughter because I ignored my instincts. I almost let my child continue to be raped because I didn't want to believe my husband could be a monster. Don't make my mistake. And to any young people watching this who are experiencing abuse, it is not your fault. Nothing you did caused this. The adult is 100% responsible, not you. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be protected. You deserve to heal. Please, tell someone. Tell a trusted teacher, a school counselor, a friend's parent, a relative. Keep telling until someone listens and believes you. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-6564-673. Call the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-422-4453. These lines are confidential and available 24/7. There are people who will believe you, who will help you, who will protect you. You are not alone. There are millions of survivors out there who have been through what you're going through, and so many of them have healed and gone on to live full, meaningful lives. That can be you too. But you have to speak up. You have to break the silence. I know it's terrifying. I know the abuser has probably threatened you, told you that no one will believe you, that telling will destroy your family, that you'll be taken away from everyone you love. Those are lies. Lies designed to keep you trapped and silent. The truth is that speaking up is the bravest thing you can do. The truth is that you deserve protection and justice. Michael is now serving his sentence in a maximum security prison. I've heard through legal channels that he's not doing well. Other inmates don't look kindly on child molesters. Good. I have no sympathy for him. None. He deserves every terrible thing that happens to him in there. His parents still maintain his innocence, still claim that Emma and I conspired to destroy him. We've cut off all contact with them. They wanted supervised visitation with Emma, claiming they had a right to see their granddaughter. Emma said absolutely not. She wants nothing to do with anyone who defends what Michael did. I supported her decision completely. The divorce was finalized a year ago. I got full custody of Emma, which was never really in question given the circumstances. I got the house too, though I sold it immediately. Neither Emma nor I could ever step foot in that place again. Too many terrible memories lurk in those rooms. I've started dating again, which feels strange and terrifying. How do you trust anyone after what I've been through? How do you let someone into your life, into your daughter's life, when you married a man you thought you knew everything about and discovered he was a monster? My therapist, yes. I'm in therapy too, says that what happened with Michael doesn't mean all men are predators. She says I need to learn to trust my instincts again, to recognize that I'm not the same naive woman I was before. I'm hypervigilant now. I notice things I never noticed before. That's probably a good thing when it comes to protecting Emma. Emma has met the man I'm seeing, Daniel. He's a teacher at the community college, divorced with 2 grown sons. He's patient and kind and has never once pushed for our relationship to progress faster than I'm comfortable with. Most importantly, he treats Emma with respect. He doesn't try to act like a father figure. He doesn't try to hug her or touch her at all. He maintains appropriate boundaries and lets Emma set the pace for their relationship. I like him, Mom. Emma told me after Daniel had come over for dinner a few times. He's not trying too hard. He's just normal. Coming from Emma, that was high praise. We still have hard days, both of us. The trauma doesn't just disappear because justice was served. Emma still struggles with trust issues, with intimacy, with feeling safe in her own body. I still struggle with guilt, with anger at myself for not knowing sooner, with fear that I missed other signs along the way. But we're healing, slowly, painfully, but genuinely healing, Emma recently told Dr. Ramirez that she's starting to have days where she doesn't think about what happened at all. I just live, she said. I'm just a normal teenager doing normal things. And then I remember, and it feels heavy again. But those moments of just living, they're getting more frequent. That's what healing looks like. It's not a straight line. It's not going from broken to fixed in some neat, linear progression. It's having more good days than bad days. It's the nightmare spacing out. It's being able to talk about what happened without completely falling apart. It's learning that you're more than what was done to you. Emma wants to tell her story publicly when she's 18. She wants to do speaking engagements at schools, warning other kids about predatory behavior, teaching them that abuse isn't their fault. If my story can save even one kid, she says, then maybe all of this will have meant something. I'm so proud of her I could burst. This girl who went through hell, who survived years of abuse, who had to testify against her own father in court, she's taking all that pain and transforming it into purpose. She's going to change lives. I know she is. We're planning to write a book together, Emma and I. Our story from both perspectives, the mother who didn't know and the daughter who couldn't tell. We want parents to understand how abuse can happen right under their noses. We want victims to understand that healing is possible, that they can reclaim their lives. The working title is Breaking the Silence, because that's what this is all about, isn't it? Breaking the silence that protects predators. Breaking the silence that keeps victims trapped in shame. Breaking the silence that allows child sexual abuse to continue happening at epidemic levels in our society. People ask me sometimes how I'm doing, really doing. The truth is, I'm okay. Not great, not perfect, but okay. I have moments of crushing guilt where I torture myself with what ifs and if onlys. What if I'd noticed sooner? What if I'd pushed harder when Emma wouldn't talk to me? What if I'd installed that camera months earlier? But my therapist reminds me that what ifs are a road to nowhere. I did the best I could with the information I had, and when I finally understood what was happening, I acted decisively. I protected my daughter. I got justice. That has to be enough. The hardest part is reconciling the Michael I thought I knew with the Michael who actually existed. For 17 years I believed I was married to a good man, a devoted father, a loving husband. How much of that was real? Was any of it real? Or was he always a predator, just wearing the mask of normalcy? I'll never know the answer to that, and I've had to make peace with the fact that I'll never fully understand how someone can hurt a child the way Michael hurt Emma. Normal people can't comprehend that level of depravity. We can't wrap our minds around how a parent can look at their own child and see a victim instead of someone to protect. But evil exists, predators exist, and they're often not the strangers we warn our children about. They're the people we trust most, the people with keys to our homes and access to our children. The people who hide behind reputations and respectability. That's why vigilance is so important. That's why we have to listen when children try to tell us something's wrong. That's why we can't afford to be naive or to make excuses for inappropriate behavior just because it's coming from someone we love and trust. If I could go back and talk to my past self, the Rebecca who stood in that hallway hearing Emma cry through her bedroom door, I would shake her and scream, "Open the door! Don't walk away! Your daughter needs you to be brave enough to face the truth." But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward, do better, be better. All I can do now is use our story to help other families, to prevent other children from suffering the way Emma suffered. Every time I give a talk about recognizing abuse, I think about the parents in the audience. I wonder if even one of them will go home and pay closer attention to their children. I wonder if even one of them will notice something off and act on it. I wonder if our story will save even one child from what Emma went through. If it does, if just one child is protected because I was brave enough to share our most painful moments, then it will have been worth it. Worth the public scrutiny, worth reliving the trauma, worth all of it. Emma and I have this thing we do now. Every night before bed, no matter what kind of day we've had, we tell each other 3 good things that happened. It started as a therapy exercise, a way to retrain our brains to see the positive instead of dwelling in the darkness. But it's become our ritual, our way of ending each day with gratitude instead of fear. Tonight, Emma's 3 things were: I scored a goal at soccer practice. Marcus made me laugh so hard I snorted water out of my nose, and I went 3 whole hours without thinking about Dad even once. My 3 things were: I helped a mother at the hospital recognize signs of abuse in her child and connected her with resources. I made Emma's favorite pasta for dinner, and she actually ate a full serving. And I got to watch my daughter smile genuinely at least a dozen times today. These small moments, they're what healing looks like. They're what surviving looks like. They're what thriving looks like. To everyone watching this, whether you're a parent, a survivor, or someone who works with children, thank you. Thank you for listening to our story. Thank you for caring enough to watch a 60-minute video about one of the hardest subjects there is to talk about. Thank you for being the kind of person who wants to protect children. If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes, if it made you think differently about child safety, please like this video. It helps the algorithm show it to more people who need to see it. Subscribe to Nurse Mom's Truth so you don't miss any of the important stories I share here. These conversations are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Silence protects predators. Speaking up protects children. And please, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What time is it in your part of the world? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect someone you love? Have you had experiences similar to ours? Your stories matter. Your voices matter. When we share our truths with each other, we create a community of support and protection. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And please, please share this video with every parent you know. You never know whose life it might save. This is Rebecca Mitchell, signing off. But our fight continues. Justice for Emma was just the beginning. Justice for all survivors is our goal. Stay strong, stay brave, and never, ever stop fighting to protect children.